Hello everybody, it's Matt here from Virtual Web, and I'm doing my second video in my adaptive versus responsive design tutorials. Now I've got to stop saying versus because it's not about one or the other. It's not always black and white. It's as I demonstrated in the first video, they can be used interchangeably. So look, I'm going to wing this. I realized I wanted to get this tutorial out by tomorrow. So we spoke about responsive and adaptive design in the last video. I used my Espresso Design Studios website to show you some examples. I'll just do a quick reminder because in the tutorial I talk about making a decision about which approach you need to take and why. And when you do, and you decide to go with adaptive design because responsive is not suitable, and again I'll demonstrate that in a second. Before I do, I'll just quickly remind you, CSS media queries, they are basically, and all you need to know, and here let's demonstrate, is when we bring our page in. So I'll take it back a little bit. So if you ever want to see breaking points in action, you need to minimize your browser to a size that's not taking up the full screen, and then basically you can play by clicking and dragging in a corner or from side to side, but best doing it in a corner because basically that's how our devices generally scale. So what we're going to do is just start from the edge. We're roughly desktop size here. Let me get a picture up. I'll get that original picture. Here we go, and as we get closer in, getting towards tablet now, so you saw a breakpoint then where the screen adjusted. We'll have another one in a second. Okay, so there are your breakpoints, and basically CSS media queries, rewriting the CSS rules based on the size of the screen is causing that, until we get right down to a mobile size there. Okay, so the whole principle behind this tutorial is about when do you use adaptive design. Ideally, it's great to use responsive design because things stay the same as you get smaller. They just adjust for the size. But as I said, there's instances where that's not practical. You might have something on your, well, let's have a look at the virtual homepage. So for Virtual Web, I've got this curved line here. I like that little effect. And as you get smaller, and look, it's not too bad, but as it gets small, look, I'm probably being a bit fussy, but that's actually not too bad. I've seen it worse. But if I wanted to have just a straight, by the time it gets to mobile, I no longer want to have that curve, and I just want to present it as a simple squared rectangular shape image. That's when I would apply this principle now of adaptive design. Okay, so I've actually done some examples to demonstrate the principle of adaptive design in this context. And what it's all about is really it's desktop versus mobile for now. We're not going to bring tablet into it too much, but you need to decide when you're analyzing your web page and looking at it at the breaking points as you're dragging it in and out. You need to decide if you can address it with responsive design. If you can't and you want to change the section completely, you need to do adaptive design. And it's basically a binary on-off, visible or not visible approach. So what you would do, for example, in this situation here, you have a section. It might be a module, it might be one element. But as you get to the smaller device, you want it to change completely. So in essence, you're creating two sections and you're making one of them disappear when it's displayed on a mobile. And then if it's displayed on a desktop, you're seeing another version of the same section. I hope that makes sense. And although I did it in the first video, I can't help myself. I'm going to go back to my website because it's got the perfect example. So for Espresso, here, as I showed you in the first video, this design here is fine and great on a desktop and possibly a tablet, but Actually, no, we've changed it for tablet. So you'll notice that went away completely because for tablet and mobile, we decided we wanted to have a similar approach. A simple approach. And one that will load a lot quicker. It doesn't have the weight of the design, even though it's not much for the existing design here. It's an extra image, extra bit of CSS. But that, nice and simple, will load a lot quicker on mobile, which is basically what Google is looking for. The more you do that for mobile, the more beneficial, I guess, it is for SEO. Okay, so hopefully you've got the idea now. Adaptive design in this context is about if we can't do it for mobile or we can't do it for desktop, we design a second section. We make one appear on desktop and possibly tablet, and when it's viewed on a mobile device, I'll see a different version, and vice versa. Okay, so let's go back to the tutorial. Now, what I've done as an example is created this very thing. So here, I've actually got two sections. One of them you can't see because it only displays on mobile. So this view here is for desktop and tablet only, and basically to do that I use a CSS class, and we'll talk about the code in a minute. I've got an example of the code that you can copy and paste into your website and just use it for any page. It's not specific to one page. If you paste it globally into your CSS, and I'll show you how to do that, it's done and dusted. You can, just as you're working through your website as you normally will, you can just add the CSS and it won't appear on the relevant device. So for example, the CSS class for desktop and tablet is VW-tablet-up. So if you apply that class to an element, a module, or a section, you'll only see that element, module, or section on a desktop or tablet. If you want it on mobile only, you apply VW-mobile-only, and you'd only see it on a mobile. Hope that makes sense, and here it is in action. So right now we've got our, this will only display on devices with a minimum width of 600 pixels, that's in width, or higher. So basically, most of your tablets and desktops, there are exceptions because there's so many devices these days. So let's go back and see that breakpoint. Okay, so here we are getting to 600. We get to 600 pixels, and bang, that one disappears. And now we've only got the mobile view. So that's very simplistic. You might have a full section on your page which is a lot more complex, might be a background image and diagonal lines and curved lines and different size fonts, texts, all the rest of it. But either way, the principle is the same. You design two sections. So there's one section. The other one I designed is actually just below that, but what happens is when I get to 600 pixels, that one disappears, and then my view for mobile is the only one you can see. So sometimes when you do this, you want to have a view that you see on tablet and desktop, but you don't see it on mobile. You'll have a mobile only version. The alternative to that is that you have desktop only. So let's have a look at the desktop only. Okay, here we are. So there is your desktop only view, so 1200 pixels and higher. Now just a reminder, that is my decision that 1200 pixels and higher for me will be desktop. Some people will say 1100, some 1080, some lower, some higher. That is for you to decide. I'm just using arbitrary figures for now that you can change. So there's 1200 pixels. As we get smaller, we break the 1200 pixel, it changes to the mobile and tablet view. So you get it, tablet can either go with desktop, so you can have a designer view for tablet and desktop and a separate one for mobile, or you can design a desktop only view and group the tablet with the mobile and have a mobile and tablet view. Now I hope that makes sense. Sounds like it's a little bit confusing, but the best thing to do is read through this, listen to this again, have a play. It's really, I'm probably making it more complex than what it needs to be. So you just need to think different devices. Sometimes you want different designs. Rather than trying to make it responsive and keep the same section and make it change elements of it so that it changes nicely as you move across devices. Sometimes it's just easier to design a whole new section, but when you do that, you only want to show one of your sections, and this is what this tutorial is about. When you design two sections, you want to turn it off for some devices and turn it on for others. To keep it simple, we're just using 3 classifications: mobile, tablet, and desktop. Mobile and desktop are pretty much always different. It's where you decide you want, is tablet going to be more suited to your mobile design or tablet more suited to your desktop design. So if you decide to go with desktop separate and grouped and designed for tablet and mobile, you would use these CSS classes. If you decide to group tablet with desktop, so you've got a section that you've designed for desktop and tablet, looks great on both of those, but for mobile it looks wonky, so you create a different section for mobile, you would use this CSS class. And as soon as you apply the CSS class, it will basically disappear or will not be visible when you get to whatever that breakpoint is. Now, as I said, the breakpoint is where the CSS changes according to the size of the device. There's the breakpoint there. So guys, in this example, I've used the 2 groupings, as I've said. You can get a lot more complex. You can do it to 6 different type devices if you want to get really technical. That's not for this lesson. So let's try and put it, there is one complexity with Thrive Themes. So I'm going to try and put it in, do an example in here. Hopefully it'll work and I won't look like a clown, but anyway. Still finishing this tutorial, as you can see. Now, before I forget, here's the code down the bottom. You can just copy that. Now that code, I always put it, so here's the code that you can use for now. Copy it, and I think it's best placing it into your additional CSS and your customizer. So go to Appearance, Customizer, go to Additional CSS, and you'll see where I've pasted mine in there. And that's global across your website. You can just now start applying these CSS classes. So, and look, it doesn't have to be an on-off, visible or not visible 2-section approach. You might just have a section that you don't want displayed on mobile for whatever reason, and it happens for legitimate reasons. So if that's the case, all you need to do from now on is add that CSS class, VW mobile only. Same principle for desktop only. Okay, now tablet only, a bit more complex, not that much more complex, but that's for another time. It's very rare that people are creating things just for tablets, so I haven't touched on it in this. I just want to try and keep this as simple as possible. Okay, so let's just do a quick demo, because there is one gotcha, and that's to do with when you do it with page sections. And I'll explain that in the tutorial, but I say that I will demonstrate in the video, so I better keep my word. And here we go. So what I'm going to do is find my page section. I want to add a page section, so that's primarily what I would use to hold everything. Say I'm doing an about section or a services section. I would personally start with a page section to hold all my elements related to that. Okay, so here is page section. I'm going to add one in here. Let's just, what can we add to it? Background image. Now I'm just going to add anything. Here we are. Okay, so we're going to just say only visible on desktop. Oops, that's the one I want. Only visible on desktop. So to make this visible on desktop only, we need to add the class VW-desktop-only. Now here's the challenge. Now for most elements in the Thrive Content Builder, you'll click on it, the floating menu will come up, and you'll have somewhere to put a class. Now if I write VW desktop only for this element, hopefully when we get to less than 1200 pixels, see how that disappeared? Now we come back, it reappears. The problem is when we want to apply that to the page section, we've got an ID section, but there's no class, and I have absolutely no idea why Thrive Themes has done that, and I'm sure in the next version of Thrive Content Builder that will be added because it's important. There is a workaround. I don't want to confuse you too much. It's not hard, but we just need to find another place to place that class. And what it is you need to go to your HTML, which is up here in the menu, on the right side menu for most of you. Okay, now I know you're going to look at that and go, how are we supposed to find where it goes? Well guys, I know the giveaway for me. The giveaway for me is it says only visible on desktop. It's towards the bottom of the page. So I'm going to go and look for that. So only visible on desktop. Here we are, only visible on desktop. It will say page section. So I'm just going to go back. Now, look, I know this looks a bit messy and complicated, but honestly, it's the only workaround for this. I'm going back. Here we are. Looks like we're getting close to the beginning. Page section. So you know where it says div, and it's got Thrive Wrapper as one of the classes and Thrive page section. That is the start. All we do is add VW desktop only. Now I know some of you looking at that going, there is no way I'm going to find what I need to find. This is a super long tutorial that I've written, lots of elements. It's huge. Now normally when you do this on your pages, it won't be as crazy as that, but believe me, once you start doing it, you'll know where to look, you'll know where to find it. Sections always have the Thrive page section, and as far as I know, the Thrive Wrapper as well. So if you look for that, within it, if you see the content that you've included, like only visible on desktop, I know that is the one. So I've just added it there. Now hopefully I don't look like a clown, and when we get down to 12, look at that, disappeared completely. So that's the principle. Now what I'm going to do is duplicate that. I'm going to put only visible on mobile. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to change that there. Now, okay, before I confuse you, don't need to do that for the internal elements. I'm actually going to take that out to show you. It's all about the wrapper. Okay, so the full page section. So let's go back into our HTML. So it doesn't matter what's on the inside. If you hide the page section, the whole lot of the internal elements will also hide. Let's go to our HTML. We were up here before, and we had our here we are, only visible on mobile. So I'm just going to go back until I see the page section. That's the desktop only one. Page section for, okay, because I duplicated it, it's copied the class as well. So what I'm going to do, just to show you, okay, so just to remind you, here is our original one here. Then we duplicated it, so I basically copied it perfect. So you need to remember that for the second one here, page section, it's obviously copied the desktop only. This is for the mobile. If you go down a little bit, you'll see the mobile only comment. Only visible on mobile. So I'm going to change this to VW mobile only. And then you'll see already it's disappeared. Why? Because that second section that we designed then, that we added the class to, is for mobile only. So what we're going to do is scroll down, and what you'll see, that disappears because it's desktop only. And as we get, now you'll see the page keeps changing because of the responsiveness. As you change devices and breakpoints, it pushes everything down or up. Now as we get towards mobile, that section should pop up, all going well. Look at that, only visible on mobile. So that's it in principle, everybody. Really, there's not a lot to it. I'm making it probably look more complex than what it is, but just think binary. It's either on or it's off. You have, for adaptive, you have two sections. You choose the device you want it on. I want it on desktop only. I want the other one for mobile and tablet. You apply the CSS, the one CSS class for whichever one you wanted to do. Desktop only, you use this CSS class. Tablet and mobile only, you use this one. And likewise for desktop and tablet, you use that, and mobile only, you use that one. There's only 4, and yeah, and that's really all there is to it. Okay, so look, I'm going to leave it there and let you absorb that. Watch it again. When I get a chance, I'll try and do a cleaner video, but I just wanted to get this out by tomorrow. Thank you for your patience listening. If you've got any questions, please ask in the comments, or find me an email, or ask me on Facebook when I post it. Yeah, hope you enjoy.